The morning sun poured through the towering glass windows of one of the city's most prestigious corporate headquarters, making everything sparkle with success and power. But behind those polished walls, a single sentence was about to change two lives forever. Everyone in the office froze as the company's billionaire owner publicly humiliated a quiet single father who had spent years sacrificing everything for his little daughter. The billionaire believed money could control anyone. He smirked as if he had already won and challenged the exhausted father to quit if he dared. What happened only seconds later stunned the entire building into silence. The man calmly packed the few belongings from his desk, walked away without looking back, and unknowingly began a journey that would make the billionaire regret the proudest moment of his life. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, comment below, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad if you believe that kindness, respect, and second chances are far more valuable than money or power. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Every weekday, before sunrise painted the sky golden, Rowan Mercer was already awake. His tiny apartment sat on the edge of the city where rent was barely affordable, but every corner of the place carried warmth because it was filled with memories of his wife, who had lost her battle with illness 4 years earlier. Since then, Rowan had become both father and mother to his 7-year-old daughter, Hazel. Every morning began with making breakfast, braiding Hazel's hair after watching countless online tutorials, checking her homework, and walking her to school before rushing to work with barely enough time to catch the crowded bus. His clothes were never expensive, but they were always clean. His shoes showed signs of years of use, yet he polished them every Sunday because he believed dignity had nothing to do with wealth. Rowan worked as a senior software architect at one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. Although few people noticed him, nearly every major product released by the company carried his fingerprints. He quietly solved impossible technical problems while others enjoyed the spotlight. He never cared about promotions or praise because every extra hour he worked meant another opportunity to provide a better future for Hazel. His co-workers admired his patience, but they rarely understood the weight he carried every single day. The company belonged to billionaire Victor Ashcombe, a man celebrated by magazines as a visionary genius. His face appeared on business covers around the world, surrounded by headlines praising his fortune and influence. Yet behind closed doors, Victor had developed a dangerous habit of measuring people by their status instead of their character. Employees feared his unpredictable temper. Managers competed to impress him. No one dared question him because everyone believed their careers depended on staying in his good graces. One unusually bright Tuesday morning, Rowan received a call from Hazel's school. She had developed a high fever and needed someone to pick her up immediately. Rowan requested permission to leave early after finishing the critical system update he had personally designed. He explained the emergency respectfully, believing any parent would understand. Unfortunately, that request reached Victor during an executive meeting. Instead of showing compassion, Victor decided to make an example of Rowan in front of dozens of executives and employees. He called Rowan into the conference room where conversations instantly stopped. Faces turned toward the quiet father standing near the doorway with tired eyes and concern written across his face. Victor spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. He declared that successful people never allowed personal problems to interfere with business. He questioned Rowan's commitment and suggested that anyone who placed family before the company did not deserve to work there. The room grew painfully quiet as co-workers stared helplessly at the floor. Then came the sentence no one would ever forget. Victor challenged Rowan to quit if he dared because, according to him, thousands of desperate people would gladly replace a struggling single father by the end of the day. Something unexpected happened. Instead of arguing or begging, Rowan simply nodded. He returned to his workstation with calm determination. Every employee watched in disbelief as he carefully placed a family photograph, a notebook, a coffee mug painted by Hazel in kindergarten, and a worn sweater into a small cardboard box. He shut down his computer, placed his identification badge on the keyboard, thanked his teammates for the years they had shared, and quietly walked toward the elevator. Not one word of anger escaped his lips. The silence left behind spoke louder than any argument ever could. Victor smiled with satisfaction, convinced another disposable employee had been replaced by his own pride. What he never realized was that Rowan had been the invisible foundation beneath several of the company's most valuable systems. Within days, technical problems began appearing across departments. Complex software updates stalled. Projects that usually required hours suddenly consumed weeks. Engineers searched desperately for solutions hidden inside thousands of lines of code that only Rowan fully understood. Customers started reporting failures. Investors demanded explanations. Emergency meetings became daily routines. Meanwhile, Rowan's life looked uncertain from the outside. His savings were limited. Bills continued arriving. Hazel still needed school supplies, meals, and medicine. Many nights, Rowan sat quietly after Hazel had fallen asleep, calculating expenses over and over while wondering whether he had made the right decision. Yet every morning, his daughter smiled because her father was there to walk her to school without rushing. For the first time in years, Rowan attended her music recital, helped with science projects, and cheered from the front row during school activities. Those moments reminded him that success was never measured only by a paycheck. One afternoon, an old university friend named Serena Holt unexpectedly called after hearing about what had happened. Serena had founded a small but promising technology startup focused on creating affordable educational software for public schools. She had always admired Rowan's brilliant mind and humble personality. Instead of offering sympathy, she offered partnership. The startup could not pay anywhere close to Rowan's previous salary. But it offered something priceless. Respect. Purpose. Flexibility. And the chance to build technology that genuinely improved children's lives. Rowan accepted without hesitation. The office occupied a modest renovated warehouse filled with second-hand furniture, white boards covered in colorful ideas, and people who genuinely cared about one another. Nobody judged Rowan for leaving early to pick up Hazel. Meetings paused when employees needed to care for family emergencies. Every success belonged to the team rather than one powerful executive. Months passed. The educational platform Rowan helped design transformed struggling classrooms by giving teachers simple digital tools that worked even in underfunded schools. Word spread rapidly. School districts adopted the software. Charitable organizations partnered with the company. Investors noticed its remarkable growth. What began inside a humble warehouse slowly became one of the most respected education technology companies in the nation. At the same time, Victor's empire faced increasing trouble. Several major clients ended contracts after repeated technical failures. News articles questioned the company's declining innovation. For the first time in decades, Victor realized that expensive offices, luxury cars, and endless wealth could not replace loyal people who genuinely cared about their work. One evening, Victor studied an industry report and froze. The fastest-growing competitor was Serena's company. Its chief technology officer was Rowan Mercer. Victor stared at Rowan's photograph for several long moments. The same quiet father he had publicly humiliated now stood behind one of the industry's greatest success stories. Months later, both companies attended the largest technology conference of the year. Crowds gathered around Serena's exhibition booth where teachers demonstrated how the educational platform had helped thousands of children improve reading and mathematics skills. Parents shared emotional stories. Students smiled proudly while showing projects they had completed using the software. Across the convention hall, Victor's expensive display attracted surprisingly little attention. As Victor walked through the crowded exhibition floor, he noticed Rowan speaking with teachers rather than wealthy investors. He noticed Hazel sitting nearby, happily drawing pictures while waiting for her father. He noticed employees laughing together instead of nervously watching the clock. For the first time in many years, Victor saw something money had failed to purchase. Peace. He approached Rowan, hoping perhaps to repair the damage. Before he could say much, he looked around once more. No luxury decorations. No intimidating security. No fearful employees. Victor quietly admitted that losing Rowan had become the most expensive mistake of his entire career. Rowan listened respectfully. There was no bitterness on his face. No desire for revenge. He simply explained that every company eventually becomes a reflection of how it treats its people. Employees may forget bonuses, titles, and office furniture, but they never forget whether they were respected during their hardest moments. Victor left without another word. That conversation stayed with him long after the conference ended. Slowly, he began changing his leadership style. Family leave policies improved. Employee wellness programs expanded. Managers received training focused on empathy rather than intimidation. While not every problem disappeared overnight, the culture gradually became healthier because one painful lesson had finally reached the heart of a man who once believed compassion was weakness. Years later, Hazel graduated from high school with honors. As Rowan watched her walk across the stage beneath the bright afternoon sun, tears filled his eyes. She hugged him tightly and thanked him for always choosing her, even when it cost everything. Rowan realized that the day he packed his desk had never been the day he lost his future. It had been the day he found it. Sometimes the greatest opportunities arrive disguised as painful endings. Sometimes walking away from disrespect opens the door to a life filled with purpose. And sometimes the strongest people are not those who fight the loudest, but those who quietly choose dignity when everyone expects surrender. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad so we can continue bringing you powerful stories that remind us kindness will always outshine pride. Special request: comment below with the words, "Respect changes everything," if you believe every hardworking parent deserves dignity, compassion, and a fair chance. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the city skyline, Rowan walked home beside Hazel, their shadows stretching across the sidewalk. They had no mansion, no private jet, and no endless fortune. But they carried something far more valuable with every step they took together: love that could never be bought, courage that could never be broken, and the quiet certainty that choosing family over fear had become the greatest success story of all.